What is up out there in YouTube land? My name is Chuck M, and this is my entry into the Great Guitar Build Along, Unofficial Great Guitar Buildoff. I don't know if this is going to qualify. I've never built a guitar before, but I figure, how hard can it be? Well, I found out. But I just figured, hey, you know, I've kind of wanted to do it. I've been repairing my own guitars for quite a while. I figured, why don't we give it a whirl? And so, no better time like the present. So again, I don't know if this is gonna even be eligible, but let me throw my hat in the ring, as it were. So here is my guitar. It is the Chouis Muiton. Okay, so where does that name come from? It's crazy, I know. So, I was inspired by seeing Post Malone's Louis Vuitton, if I can speak, Louis Vuitton guitar. I thought it was cool. You know, the kind of leather wrapped, I believe it was a Tele. I thought it was really cool. So I'm like, man, you know, Post Malone, obviously famous artist, you could probably sell like cheap knockoffs as guitars. A lot of people would buy them, even just as collectibles. I don't know if that's going to happen. Louis Vuitton and Post Malone should hook up and make that happen. Can I get a little cut of that? Anyway, so I thought, what would a cheap Chinese knockoff of Post Malone's Louis Vuitton guitar look like? And so this is kind of what I came up with. So this is a cheap knockoff of Post Malone's Louis Vuitton guitar. Except for the fact some of the components on here, not so cheap. But super cool nonetheless. So basically what I did was I started out with a guitar body from Guitar Fetish, and so I bought this. This was one of like the rejects off of, I'm guessing, the Xavier production line. And originally I was just going to throw some pickups on it and, you know, just throw some pickups on it and, you know, just kind of do it that way. But I decided, no, I'm going to take that platform and kind of go all out. And so that's what I did. So the first thing I did was I got a rasp and I put the comfort carve for the arm, put a belly carve, and then we did some upper fret access carves. So I put those carves in, stripped the finish off that was there that had issues. So the finish had issues, which was why they were selling the body and neck out cheap. And so it's actually a set neck. So throughout the build, you're going to see the body and neck together and figure, why didn't you take the neck off? Because it's a set neck guitar. This neck is glued in, which I thought was interesting for a T-style guitar. Oddly enough, going with stain and an oil finish is new for me. I'm kind of handy with a spray gun. I've done some spraying in the past, not on guitars, oddly enough, but in houses and on cars, and I painted a bus one time, so there you go. So I can use a sprayer. I'm handy with a sprayer, but I decided we're going to go oil and stain to try to get that kind of vintage Louis Vuitton trunk look. And so we just went with a walnut stain and 2 coats of tongue oil on the body and the neck. Now the neck we did not stain at all. We kept that maple, although the tongue oil gave it kind of a yellow vintagey look, which I like. I was happy with that. And I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that every neck I do from now on is going to be tongue oil. I love the feel of this tongue oil finish on the neck. I'll paint guitar bodies and do that in the future. but the tongue oil on the neck is magnifique. That's what we did as far as the finish was concerned. Now the Louis Vuitton theme was going to be mostly focused on the pick guard, and so decided to do, there was a bunch of workers helping, so it just sounds less conceited what I decided to do. But anyway, what I decided to do was, and I thought of a couple different ways to do it. I was going to try real leather, but I just couldn't find anything I liked. I was going to actually just glue paper on top of wood and print on the paper. I didn't really like that. So what I ended up doing was cutting this custom pickguard out of a piece of basswood. So it's just a plank of basswood I got at Hobby Lobby. And then I went to a fabric store and got this like vinyl that looks like leather. It's kind of got that fake leather kind of thing, and wrapped or cut the basswood out to the shape that I wanted, and then wrapped it in leather. And the shape was very interesting. It took me a while to kind of dial everything in. I used a pickguard that I actually purchased and was going to use originally, which I thought about just wrapping that as kind of the template of where the pickups went and everything like that. I used that as a template to kind of cut everything out and position everything. And originally I was just going to do the pickups, and then I was going to add a second section behind the bridge. But I thought that kind of looked too segmented, so I ended up creating a template and cut the actual pickguard out of a second piece of basswood. And so now I have one continuous pickguard across the entirety of the guitar, and I'm kind of glad how that came out. I was glad I did that. So we got that wrapped, we got that glued in, and gluing in around the pickups and around a lot of these pieces just took time. Putting the glue and clamping, putting the glue and clamping, and I only had so many clamps. There are only so many clamps on Earth to be able to do that with. But we got it all glued down, and I decided to make a grid with masking tape. And I had masking tape. It was 1.5 inches, which I thought kind of got the perfect size. And I got 4 rows. This is 6 inches wide, and I got 4 rows of 1.5 inches, and I was happy with that. And I went ahead and did hand-drawn artwork. So none of this is template, just by hand. I drew the artwork in. The CM obviously not only stands for my initials, but Chinese made, because the actual body comes from China, although most of the components and obviously all the work was done here in the US. But that was that cheap Chinese kind of knockoff thing I was going for. But it also stands for my initials, which also is where the Chouis Muiton, because I didn't want to do the Louis Vuitton artwork, because number one, like copyright thing, which I don't think would be an issue, obviously, for me. I'm not selling this, mass producing it, etc. But I wanted to go for that kind of Chibson knockoff feel. And so I did the custom artwork, and obviously the stupid name, the Chouis Muiton name, and so there's where you get the CM. And we got a Celtic cross, because half of my lineage is Irish, so just an ode to that. We got a vintage style shapish microphone, because I'm a recording engineer. I have a studio here, and recording is kind of my thing. I love recording. I love making music and recording it. And so, Spotify, Apple Music plug, links in the description. Okay, and then there's the diamond with the dot in the middle, and that's extremely significant because I felt like to make the symmetrical, I needed 4 shapes, and that was a random shape that I put there. So it's very important that I put that shape there to give me 4 shapes, to just make it look not too monotonous. And so that's how the pickguard came to life. So as far as the hardware, well, I decided that I wasn't going to go cheap, that I was just going to go for the real deal. So we got hip shot locking tuners, we got Emerson electronics, we got Emerson like wiring harness, switchcraft, all the good stuff here. We got TV Jones classic pickups, and this is where I have to give a little plug to TV Jones because they are legends. So I had a few problems, which we're going to talk about in depth a little bit more, and TV Jones really bailed me out. And I needed screws, and they overnighted me screws. Like, literally, they drove it and made sure it got to FedEx in time to get to me. So not only do the pickups sound freaking amazing, which you'll see in the sound samples later on in the video, but the customer service at TV Jones is second to none. Buy TV Jones pickups. Those people are awesome. Obviously, they're not paying me. Nobody's paying me to say anything at this point. My first build, and I'm getting sponsors. No, I don't think so. But so everything as far as the electronics, hip shot bridge, all working with good stuff. And Graphtec nut. That was another interesting situation, by the way. Graphtec nut. So all of these components were really good, which obviously made that portion of the first build for me a lot easier, working with those high-end parts. So the problems, there were many. First off, it would have been significantly quicker had I just purchased a block of wood and routed the body out. So using this already made body, which was cut for single coils, and adapting them to the TV Jones Filtertrons was a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be. Not only just in placement, but the routes were too deep, and I had to add wood to get the pickups to the right height. Obviously I spent the time to add the cars, and I'm glad I did, but that work would have been there either way. But stripping the finish was a whole thing. It wasn't that difficult to do, but obviously had I just cut it out, I wouldn't have had to have done that. But probably the main thing, and it's covered up by the pickguard conveniently, but this is like a 4-piece body. Obviously under the finish I couldn't see that. This was going to be a cheap guitar that was going to be, that wasn't intended to have these level of parts on there. But it feels and sounds great, so there you go. Take that for what you will. You can't see the pieces of wood. Mostly you can see this one here, but because it's covered with the pickguard, so it doesn't. It's not that big of a deal, but that was the challenge again. If I had just gotten a body blank from Crimson, it wouldn't have been. That wouldn't have been an issue. The routes would have been cleaner and all that stuff. One thing though, again, for being a inexpensive body and neck, the neck felt really good. And it's not thin, it's right in that middle range, maybe just a tad thicker than a Gibson 60s neck, which I like. I have a Les Paul. That's kind of the sweet spot for me as far as necks. This is a little thicker, maybe this is probably more of a Strat neck, not a baseball Tele, not a U shape, but kind of like a C shape Strat neck. But I really like it. I really like the feel. And so I maintained that. I stripped the finish off the neck, but kind of maintained the shape and sanded it in with my hand to kind of maintain that shape. And it turned out great. The frets weren't too bad. So leveled, crowned, roll. It did a kind of faux rolling of the edges, not a proper rolling of the edges, but kind of just clean those edges out, polish the frets up. Did the setup on the guitar. Now, one of the big problems with the neck was the original nut. The original nut, there was a nut in there. It was plastic. And I didn't want to go with a plastic nut, so I wanted to take it out. The only problem is, whoever put that nut in there must have used an entire bottle of super glue. I'm telling you, I've never seen a nut so stuck in a slot. It was unbelievable. I ended up chipping the back half of, chipping a chunk out of the back half of the fretboard, and so I was horrified. What am I gonna do now? So my solution was, well, just chop off the rest of the back half of the neck and go with a Gibson style nut. So that's what I did. I went, I got a Gibson, like you put on a Les Paul, from Graph Tech. It's a Graph Tech nut for Gibson Les Paul, and just adapted it to work with this guitar. So I had to do quite a bit of shaping. I had to file down the nut and get the nut just right. The other thing I ran into, which I don't have a lot of footage, was I bought a jack plate off of Amazon, and I neglected to look that it was in metric. Of course, my wiring stuff, the Switchcraft jack is in standard, so it wasn't thread on, so I had to actually drill and tap it to get it on there. There's that, but we made it work. You know, problem solving, and I think that's kind of the big takeaway. Nothing's gonna go perfectly, especially your first time out, but just having the fortitude to say, okay, I have a problem, let's stop, think about it, what can I do to fix it, and moving on, and being able to troubleshoot and do all that stuff, I think was a good learning experience for me. And I had a good time building this. I had a lot of fun. And this may be my first guitar build, but I don't think it's going to be my last. So there is my submission for the guitar Buildoff. Stay tuned, stick around. We're going to have the sound samples. We're going to look at a clean sound, a driven sound. I got a fuzz sound, all going through a Marshall DSL-40, and then I go onto the gain channel of the Marshall DSL-40, so you can kind of see the sounds in each of those gain structures. So take a listen to that, and let me know in the comments what you thought of the guitar, of the design, of the concept. By the way, just another shameless plug, links in below to my Spotify and Apple Music pages. So in 2020, I've put a new single up every month, and I'm going to continue to do that through the end of the year, 2020, hopefully, unless like a asteroid comes and kills us all. It is 2020, so but check out some of my music, everything I've recorded here in my studio here, and played all the instruments and all that stuff. So check that out. If you get a chance, check out some of my other videos. If you like it, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. If you want to. If not, I'll just cry tears of depression for all eternity. Anyway, so here are the sound samples. Bye.